Despite what my parents always told me, I have never had any trouble with opening the door to strangers. Not when I was a kid, and not now that I'm 25. But that'll change that day the old man knocked at my door. This whole ordeal started about 1 month ago, and you could say that my life has been hell ever since. It was 12 p.m. on June 10th. I was interrupted from my midday yoga by a loud knock at the door. Startled and a little concerned by how heavy-handed the person was, I approached the door with caution. My heart rate quickly returned to normal once I saw a small old man smiling back at me.
"Could you please help me?"
The old man had an accent that I couldn't quite put my finger on. A little fun fact about me, I have never had much of a poker face. Pretty sure that my immediate discomfort with the situation was likely obvious in my expression. Besides, I don't think anyone has ever knocked on my door to ask for anything before, not even back when I was living with my parents.
"I need the number for a local taxi service. I'm not from here,"
he said. I told him the number, and he continuously repeats it back to me incorrectly. In the end, I just wrote it down for him. "All good?" I asked, watching him as he muttered the number to himself. There was no response. He looked at me and walked up my stairs, away from my house, laughing to himself. I shook it off, closed the door, and got back to my day. Literally 30 seconds later, there's another loud banging at my front door. I could hear the old man shouting, "Hello? Come back!" I opened the door and could see that he was clearly angry this time. He waved the paper at me and accused me of giving him the wrong number. After a while of me stuttering and spluttering, trying to convince him that the number was correct, he stopped shouting. His whole demeanor suddenly shifted and his anger faded. He patted around his trousers and said that he didn't even have a phone to call the taxi on, so he needed to come into my house to use my phone.
"Can I please come in?"
he asked, pointing inside my house.
"I come in?"
"No, I'm really sorry. I'm busy at the moment. I need to get back to my work," I said. But he just kept pointing into my house. A tactic that I always used when I was home alone as a kid was to let the stranger at the door think that I wasn't really alone at all. When the pizza guy would knock, I'd call upstairs to my non-existent dad and tell him the pizza was finally here. That way the stranger wouldn't think I was vulnerable and alone, and thus wouldn't get any funny ideas. I used the same tactic with the old man, though it didn't seem to change much. In super challenging situations like this, advice from my old man would always pop into my head, fortunately. He used to tell me to shut the door on strangers if they're making me feel uneasy. So, in that end, that's exactly what I did. And that's when this little, sweet-looking, old, foreign man began hissing through my letterbox. Yes, literally hissing. He fit his arm through the letterbox to lift up the chrome flap, and I could see his bulging green eyes peeking through, searching around for me.
"I need your help. Why do you lock me outside?"
he begged.
"I need to come in. Please, let me in."
He hissed, spat, bared his teeth at me, and even tried to swipe at me with his lanky little arms. Of course, calling the police was an option, but is it really necessary to waste their time on a senile old man? Eventually, I went upstairs and shut myself in my bedroom to wait it out. I hadn't even reached the top of my stairs when I remembered that the kitchen window was left wide open. Racing back down the stairs, I prayed that this old man wasn't crazy or desperate enough to climb straight through. But thankfully, once I reached the door, he was gone. I closed the window and the blinds, made myself a coffee, and got stuck into my work. I pushed the whole scenario to the back of my mind and pretty much forgot about it after a few hours, until later that evening. Just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I heard creaking directly above me in the loft. When I was a kid, I went through a phase of thinking there was somebody living in the loft, walking around at night to taunt me. It used to give me the freakiest nightmares, and I'd wake up in a sweat. My parents always assured me that I was hearing the floorboards from the neighbors moving about next door, or the groaning of the wooden beams adjusting to the change in weather. Anyway, that night, it was really hot, and as much as I tried to convince myself that the noise was just adjusting wood, the creaks were so rhythmic, like a cat skulking on the rooftops in the night. As you can imagine, I didn't get much sleep at that night. The creaking seemed to trail from one end of the house back toward where I was, all damn night. So, either the neighbors were pacing until the early hours of the morning, or the wooden beams were doing some serious adjusting. After that one sleepless night, life pretty much returned to its boring, normal self. I went back to taking in packages for the neighbors without any dramas, and working day and night at my desk. The past few weeks have actually been quite busy for me, as I took on some new clients. That allowed me to get lost in my writing and forgot about the whole bloody thing. And then it happened, the night that made some simple creaking seem like child's play. July 5th. There was a heat wave across England, and although my clunky little fan was constantly whirring away in my bedroom, I could not get any sleep. I read for hours, laying flat like a starfish on my bed. And at about 3 a.m., I ventured out of my bedroom to pee. That's when I saw it, opposite my bedroom, poking half of its body out of my loft, holding itself upside down with ease. A naked, wrinkly figure, staring right at me. I could have sworn its eyes were aglow, murky green headlights shining deep into my soul. When I say that I screamed the house down, I screamed the house down. The shadowy figure crept back into the loft, and the door groaned shut behind it. Within seconds, I had retreated back into my bedroom and tore the wardrobe down in front of the door so that nobody could get in. My body was shaking. I felt nauseous as hell. I was ready to leap straight out of the window, far away from whatever was currently in my loft. My blood-curdling scream clearly alerted the neighbors, because there was a knock at the door shortly after I rolled up in a ball in the corner of my room to cry. Clenching my fists, I bolted out of my bedroom toward the front door, not looking to see if the thing was there or not. It was the police. Seeing that I was shaken up, they decided to humor me and inspect the house. At first, they couldn't find any signs of forced entry, but once they checked out the loft, they found a hole in my roof. The exact words from the officers were, "Looks like a hole the size of a small animal, so probably nothing to worry about." But I knew that there was something to worry about. Unfortunately, the discoveries didn't end there. There were bunches of old food wrappers and empty food tins scattered on the loft floor. Despite this vomit-inducing evidence, the police officers didn't offer much help, apart from telling me that I should stay elsewhere for a while. They promised me they'd make routine check-ins to my house in hopes to find whatever was lurking around in my loft. I knew they were convinced that it was just an animal, though. I knew that they wouldn't make a real effort. There was nowhere for me to go. My parents are dead, I don't have a partner, there's nobody that I'm close enough with to help me out until this whole fucking thing is over. So that brings me to right now. I'm in a nearby hotel that I've been staying for 7 nights, and my bank account is dropping fast by each day. The dwindling money means that I have no choice but to go back home tonight, whether that thing is gone or not.